Hi, I would like to thank everyone participating in this training session to learn more about the Cube Engineering module, specifically how to create and work with wiring details. Now, during this presentation, I will go over what is the intended workflow with regards to Cube and your processes, how to create and edit new wiring details, how to integrate the wiring details with Microsoft Visio, and last but not least, how to use the wiring details in your control drawings. Now, before we go into the material, I would like to put Cube in context when it comes to your engineering workflow. The platform is designed to help you streamline every process from estimating all the way to the quality controls or graphics. This presentation today actually covers two sections because the wiring details can actually help you produce very good and detailed submittals, but also can improve on the panel fabrication when it comes to detailed panel design that may also help you improve your processes. During the presentation, I'm going to be using the Cube web, primarily the Cube components. And I'm also going to be working on Microsoft Visio. I'm going to be flipping back and forth. And I'm going to show you how both of those features are integrated with Cube. Okay, wiring details. The idea behind the feature is actually to help you save time when creating wiring schematics. And the whole idea is to reduce the amount of time when designing a controls layout. Most importantly, because there is nothing is done manually, we really want you to reduce the errors caused many times for manual entries. Typically, wiring schematics are very time consuming. Basically because the amount of time and the amount of information that it requires to really produce wiring details. For example, in this particular case, I'm actually showing as an example a typical drawing. And as you can see here, at a minimum, I have to show the product. I have to show the wire type, what part is associated with it, the application, the description, the point number. And in many cases, I need to show the jumper. In this particular case, this controller is it requires a jumper type, but most manufacturers require for you to determine what is it going to be, a 10K, a 10 volts. Okay, great. So now how this comes together? Well, the idea is that I'm going to automate the process of creating wiring schematics or wiring details as the result of me putting an estimate together. For that to happen, first I need to have all my wiring schematics associated with my part in Cube, and therefore I have to associate them with the Visio stencils on my computer. So next, let's show you how a wiring detail is created in Cube Edge. I am currently under my wiring diagram configuration. You can find the wiring diagram configuration under Engineering, then navigate to System Components, and under System Components you will find two tabs. It will be under Wiring Diagram Configuration. Now in this page you will find a list of active wiring details configuration. A lot of these details are created and given to you as a user as part of your template. However, you have the option of deactivate, create, or edit the information of any of these existing items. Now, it is important to emphasize that the items that you find on this list are the equivalent to the wiring schematics that you will use on your Visio drawing. Now, it is important also to note that you don't have to create wiring schematic for each of the parts. For example, in this particular case, you can see that I have a 10K temperature sensor that can apply to different parts. I will show you in a minute how can you apply one wiring detail to multiple parts. That will save you time and will allow you to actually create one item for hundreds of parts if you need to. Now, to edit an item, simply click on the edit icon at the end of the road. The edit page will appear, and in here you have the ability to change any of the properties of this wiring detail. So if you are done with the changes, just click on save and Cube will change those properties. Now, using the same example, I'm going to open the duct temperature sensor once more. I'm going to click on edit, and as you can see right here on the bottom section, you have a field called associated parts. What this means is that now you're going to indicate this wiring detail to what part it belongs to. Of course, the 10K thermistors, there are like thousands on your database. However, you can use the same wiring detail if you choose to make sure that you save time. In this particular case, I'm going to add the temperature sensor that I know I use the most. As you can see right here, I already associated two of the parts that I know I use the most and are associated with this wiring detail. I'm going to click on save, and immediately these parts are already associated with this element. So what that means is that every time on my estimate I use any of those parts, Cube will actually insert the wiring details associated with the point number that that part is being assigned to. Therefore, the process becomes very, very automated. Now, to create a new item, simply click on new item, complete the information, associate your parts, and then click on save, and the item will be created. Now, I would like to point out that there is two places here that you must be aware of. One is the cable type. By default, we bring all these cable types. However, if you want to add or create more cable types that we don't have here, you can do so by creating new power cable, enter the information, click on save, and a new power cable will be created. Same goes as the jumper. So you're going to be able to create different signals that allow you to be more specific in your drawings if you need to. Now, this information is actually used in Cube to show the installer what type of wire they're going to be using. This example, you will see that is a 222 and the signal is 10K. Therefore, the information is very detailed and the process should be a lot simpler. Now that we know how to integrate a wiring detail with a wiring reference, the next step is to associate that same wiring references with a Visio shape. So how does that work? As you can see here, in this particular case, the actuator modulation feedback is item number 7. This item has to exist in the Visio stencils under your computer. In this particular case, I am pointing at field devices, and these field devices here, I need to make sure that number 7 already exists. Using the example that I did at the beginning of this presentation, you can see that I have a stencil called field devices, and under this stencil I have an item called number 7. So if I bring that into my drawing, you can see that that is that wiring detail. So that's how Cube knows that every time a component using that particular reference, it will insert these items right here. And now you can really have the same for all other items as well. Okay, the next step is to tell Cube which file or which stencil files I want to use for my drawing. Many customers require to show a damper feedback in two different ways. Now, to accomplish that, we allow the customer to say, okay, number 9 is going to look like this. If you indicate that Cube needs to find the device under field device 1, or number 9 is going to look like this if you're going to tell Cube to find the information in another stencil. Okay, so what this means is that we have to find a way in Cube to change the folder location or the stencil location in order for us to switch from one stencil to the other. That place is under the Cube menu, config WD stencil. Cube will prompt you with a text box and you can change from one stencil files to the other. Okay, great. Now We already went over how to set up the component and the reference, how the reference is linked with Visio, and how in Visio you can have different options. It's time to put it in practice, and there are different options on the feature, but I'm going to use the most common one, which is the first two. So I'm going to show you how to use option 1 first, and as you can see, the option is named Insert Wiring Schematics with Connectors. From an empty Visio file, I am going to navigate to Insert Wiring Diagrams option from the menu, and I'm going to select the first option on the drop down. I'm going to click on this option, and immediately you can see Cube insert on the drawings all the wiring details that are associated with the system that I'm working with. Let me zoom a little bit here. As you can see, all these devices are actually inserted automatically as a result of the information that has been created on my flow diagram. I'm going to select the second option from the menu, and after I click on that, Cube will insert my wiring details again. The only difference between option 1 and option 2 is that on the option 2, we do not include the terminal block and the connector. So that's the only difference. It's a matter of flavor. Okay, my friend, that's it. That is actually how the wiring detail or wiring diagram and feature works in Cube. I really hope you enjoyed it. I really have a lot of fun with it, to be honest with you. I want to thank you again for being here today. Again, please answer those surveys. We really like to have your feedback. If you have any questions or concerns or suggestions, email us at support@cube-usa.com. Please always remember to work smarter, not harder. And if there is anything else that we can do, we'll like to hear from you. Thank you and have a great time. See you on the next.